Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the education news that you need to know. Is this show every Sunday night at 8 p.m.? We talk about all things education, all of the headlines, all of the things that are happening that you just got to talk to someone about. Um, how we usually do this, we usually start with our top 5 stories. We bring a guest on, and then we dig into the topics. Before we start, I want to introduce our guest, Mr. Dan Dunsmore. He is a former educator. He's retired. You're always an educator, but he spent 43 years in the classroom and turned retirement into something I had never seen before, where he has doing a gratitude tour. Dan, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how you got to year 43.
So yes, 43 years, 7 schools in 5 states throughout my career, all in the South. I'm now dangerously close to leaving the South since I live in Maryland. Uh, but it was a very rewarding career all along the way. And I'm just pleased that I can now continue to sort of share my story by sharing stories of my colleagues along the way.
Absolutely. And guys, every week, the Educators Room has been running his gratitude tours. So he actually interviews people. They're really rich conversations, a diverse group. So please listen, and we'll put this in the chat so people can listen to it, but just want to make sure everybody knows about this great resource. Now, before we start, we like to, before we get into the news, that it's not, the news isn't depressing, but it can get kind of heavy. We always want to talk about some of the questions that we get here at the Educators Room. And for those who don't know, we get questions daily from people going through things, want to know things, and just, need advice from veteran educators. So, Dan, you are well equipped for this. And so the question that we have tonight is from a teacher whose birthday is this last Friday, and they wanted to know, they're young, they want to know, do you take off for your birthday? Is this something that you should do? Should they not? Did you used to take off for your birthday?
Every single birthday,
Oh,
every single one. Yes,
okay.
yes, absolutely.
What did you do? Like, did you just stay at home? Like, sometimes, like, I would go out shopping because I also took off for my birthday. What did you do on your birthdays when you took off?
I would sleep in to start, uh, and then I would usually have some activity that was actually planned by one of my family members uh, during the day and that evening. But yes, yeah, I mean you've got to give yourself those breaks along the way, and a birthday is an absolutely uh, reasonable reason to take the day off, and I don't think anybody is going to fault someone for taking their birthday off.
I love it. And you're actually, that's right. Like, just being able to take off your birthday and just to get up when you want to get up. I don't have to get up. I don't have to, be up by the crack of dawn and all those things. So you have just hit the nail on the head. So before we start tonight, guys, we've had a lot of people who have inboxed us and said, "Hey, I'm so excited that you guys do this every Sunday." In the comments, put where you are from. Tell us where you are from. Tell us what you've done this week, and tell us, do you take, we'll put a poll up, do you take your birthday off? We want to know that. So please tell us where you are calling from. We are streaming on Instagram, we are streaming on YouTube, and we are streaming on our Facebook page. So please do that, and also share with an educator who might need to hear this. Now, Dan, I am not a lover of controversy, but this week we are going to start with talking about the beloved Auburn University. Are you an Auburn fan? Are you an SEC fan?
I'm an SEC fan, but never have been an Auburn fan.
Oh, okay. So who are you? Who's your team?
Well, I'm from Tennessee,
Oh,
so
oh,
so Tennessee, of course, I'm a Vol, pure orange through and through. But in my Atlanta days, I was a Georgia Tech fan as
yes,
well, and then
yes.
I eventually moved into ACC
Okay.
territory.
Okay.
I know, and sometimes I feel like a traitor, but I have supported some of the ACC teams over the years as well. But there will never be a school to me like Tennessee. That's my hometown,
Yes.
and yes, I'm definitely, but never an Auburn fan. Oh heavens, no.
It's interesting you said that because I'm not an Auburn fan at all. I'm actually Go Dogs, UGA, because I live in Georgia. Also a huge Georgia Tech fan, but I lived in Tennessee, and there is an experience when you go to a UT a Vols home game, and they sing oh Rocky. What is this? What is the song?
It's the most obnoxious team song ever. Rocky Top.
Yes, yes, and the lights dim, and it is an experience. So I am right there with you, and I think that we'll get lots of people. We'll put that as a poll. Also, what's your SEC team? So
Right.
let's go to Auburn University now. For those who have not listened to this or have not heard about this, this last week Auburn dissolved their faculty senate. Okay, so the faculty senate was used to making decisions. Things would come to them if something went awry, and the Auburn Board of Trustees unanimously on June 5th last week, a little bit over a week, to dissolve the traditional faculty senate. It is now replaced by the Presidential Academic Advisory Council, or PAAC. These council members are appointed by university officials. They are not elected by faculty, and the council possesses no independent decision making authority. So basically, the board of trustees, the university president now have direct authority over course creation and activations, prerequisites, and syllabi. Um, this is a shift because, in addition to them dissolving the faculty senate, they have taken a more direct curricular control. So some of the things that they have done, they have students have to take a civics course that fits the rules of the new Alabama law around controversial topics. Also, they are faculty. There is a part of the policy that specifically talks about that the syllabus and what kids are teaching, it has to align with the institutional beliefs. And so this is a very controversial piece. So before we go dig any deeper into this, Dan, have you heard about this?
I had not heard about this, I'll be honest, until you let me know about this issue. And then I researched it. I've not paid that much attention to education at the university level. I've always been a middle and high school teacher, but I am surprised, without knowing a lot of background, as to why they wouldn't at least make this a partnership with the faculty. I don't understand the leaving them out sort of completely. It seems to me
Yeah.
that's confusing to me. What
Yeah.
what what are they after with this change?
I think that's important. You said, what are they after? And some of the things, so the policy, it gives this new board ultimate authority over curriculum, course officing, degree requirements. And this is directly from the policy. It is intended to promote academic transparency, quality, accountability, institutional alignment, responsible stewardship of public trust, and appropriate faculty engagement while preserving clear lines of authority for final institutional decision making, according to the board documents. The trustees have already used their new authority to direct the provost to create a civics requirement for all students that include at least one U.S. history course and one civics course. Okay. Um, and one of the things that they've said in this policy is that the faculty have the primary responsibility to deliver academic programs, that the Auburn curriculum development process should follow faculty to give advice and recommendations, but that the curriculum and courses are institutional matters subject to final approval through the authority of the board or through such administrative delegation as the board may authorize. So for me, this mirrors, I wonder what their end game is. I know there have been a couple of House bills in Alabama, House Bill 580, and also where the university has taken a playbook out of Texas public institutions with saying what professors can and cannot teach, and also um, basically making the control, shrinking the control, and only giving it to certain people. So I wonder what their end game is. On TikTok, I talked about this, and several people from Auburn talked about how the professors are really feeling like they have no voice, and that they have been told what they can and cannot teach in their courses.
It seems to
Um,
me too, if I may interrupt real quickly, it
no,
seems to me
please.
like they're just not being trusted either. There seems to be a lack of trust in their professional judgment, which I don't know why you would hire someone to teach at your university and then not trust their judgment enough to allow them to be part of the decision making process.
Yep. Yep. And the president of Auburn is Christopher Roberts. And so this new council they have created, it will have two faculty members from each college, one elected by the college faculty. So they'll have one, and one appointed by the president as well. So that would be fun. But there are also other members who are going to be directly appointed by the president. And that can include faculty or non-faculty members whose, so it doesn't matter, they can appoint anybody. One of the things is that, they're talking about the professors, is that this isn't a shared governance model, and that, you're selecting half of the membership so that the professors' voices are diluted. And people have really talked about how this is another playbook around teaching inaccuracies and nobody being held accountable for it. I know in Florida, there used to be, if you were a general education, there was a requirement for you to take a sociology class. In Florida, they have taken that out. So sociology, you will not take a sociology class unless you are a sociology major. And then in Texas, there was a professor at University of Texas at Austin, I believe, where he was a philosophy professor and he was barred from teaching Plato.
Right, right.
So, I mean,
Yeah, it's the optics of it that are concerning me. I can understand a board wanting to have some say so,
right.
but why make, why silence your professors in the, that seems like that's what this policy is about.
Yeah, I think so. And it's silencing the professors, and it's also taking control of what they teach. I think that right there, I think it's equal, right? As a professor, I'm an expert. I this is what I do every day. And then to say, you can't teach this. This cannot be taught. That to me is, what's the point of college? Because when you go away to college, I don't know about you, but I learned to think differently when I went to college. I learned to listen to other people's viewpoints. I learned to say, you know what? Well, let me research this. This might not be correct, what I thought was true. So, do you think there's any inklings of that? Or do you think this is just, they just want more power?
Well, I don't want to overstate the concern, but I am reminded right now of a book that I loved teaching my high schoolers uh, throughout my career, which was Fahrenheit 451. And when you start having a one person or one group of people deciding what can and cannot be read or studied, you're on a slippery slope at that point.
Yes.
And so that concerns me.
Yeah, and we're in a day and age where this is not new. Alabama is taking the playbook from Texas, from Florida, that are doing this. And so I always wonder. I also taught Fahrenheit 451, but one of my questions is always, what are you trying to hide? That's my question. What are you trying to hide? Because I might not like Plato, but that doesn't mean that other people don't need to read Plato. So when I tell a professor who is a expert and who has done this that no, you don't need to teach this, you cannot teach this, it makes me think, do you not want kids to think? Do you not want kids to question what they're thinking? Now, I'm going to give you this. One of the Virginia Davis, she was the chair of the faculty senate. She really talked about the proposed changes were only posted 24 hours in advance, and that there was not any public input. So this is what she says. Whenever you want to do something or make a policy, you really need the input of people who are living that role. And my concern here today is that the faculty did not get a chance to give that input. I'm concerned it will have adverse consequences for research, teaching, and service. I know that you have the best intentions, but I'm just concerned that because there wasn't enough time for the engagement of faculty members involved, that will actually set us backwards in tremendous ways. So this wasn't something that was out on the calendar and people had 6 months to talk about. They did this within 24 hours.
Yeah. What was the emergency? Too. I don't know enough about the issue yet. I need to
Yeah.
do more research on it. But on its surface, it just seems like there's some reason why they want to silence the voices of their most valued employees, in my opinion. I mean, who's more valuable to a university than your professors? So,
Yeah.
do you not want them to have a say so? Uh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't get it. I don't get it. So,
And somebody said on Instagram that this is about control, but this also, so there was a House bill, Alabama House Bill 580, and this was a vote that really talked about that taking full curricular control. Auburn was technically exempt from that and it from the state constitution. However, the board chose to implement the curriculum and governance changes preemptively. So Auburn didn't have to do it, they wanted to do it. It really makes me nervous, even in a high school, for a principal to have direct authority over the course creation and activations, prerequisites, and syllabi. I don't think a college president has the capabilities to do that. I don't think that is their role or their lane, because if that's the case, then they should teach all of the classes themselves.
that's right. There you go. Yeah. And when I was a department chair for a few years at Blue Ridge School in Virginia, I gave members of my department, freedom to teach what they love to teach.
Yeah,
I guess I would say within reason. I mean,
absolutely.
they were making reasonable, wonderful decisions about what they
Mhm.
taught, and they, because of their passion for what they taught, I think that made them better teachers. I think if you're passionate about what you're teaching, the students pick up on that. And if you're teaching something that's been mandated by somebody else, you're
Yep.
not going to teach that as well, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to ask this, and this is important for me also, is so I have two children who are college age, and I was talking to somebody about this, and they said something that made me think. They said, I wouldn't let my child attend Auburn because of this. And I said, well, I'm not an Auburn fan, but I'm not discounting that Auburn is a great institution. And they said, no, it's not even about being a great institution. They said it's about, if they are willing to do this, what else will they do? Like, what is the end game? And I said, oh,
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
didn't think about that. So if you had college age children, would you encourage them to go to Auburn with this happening?
I think it would not make me encourage them to go to that
Mhm.
institution. I'm not sure it would. Yeah, I want my children to go where they feel like they're going to, find themselves and
Yeah.
be happy. So I wouldn't lay down the law about it necessarily, but I'm not sure I would encourage them to go to any school where I felt like their thinking would be limited, their ability to discover themselves would be limited.
Yeah. And, that's really important. Like, we have seen this playbook. We have seen this playbook in other organizations, not other countries, where you attack the academics, you attack research, you attack things because you're hiding something. So to me, it really makes me think. And Auburn gets taxpayers' money, so everybody that I've talked to from the area, many of them did not know.
Wow, wow.
They did not know. So it has really been, something that I think is going to.
Well, it's been sudden. It's been very sudden, right? I mean,
They did it quick.
yeah,
They
they
did
did
not
it in a
wait.
hurry, right?
You're right. They did not wait. They did not get input. They did not do any of those things. And I think that's the big thing of it. Because if you really weren't trying to hide anything, then you would have it out for public comment. You would say, oh, okay, yeah, well, this is what we want to do. But they didn't do any of that. And I think that, to me, is probably the big thing for these parents and for the kids. And I had a professor on Instagram who messaged me and said the faculty is incensed by this, that they had no idea this was coming, and that they really feel like that Auburn has not, they just are not supporting their staff, and that while current teachers will not leave, that they believe it will be harder for them to get good faculty members at the university because of this.
I think it will too, and I'm wondering, since they are able to opt in or out of it, I'm wondering if there could be enough pressure, if you will, put upon the decision makers that they might reverse their decision. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see, and I don't think that they will change anything unless there is a new governor. Because who, now this is, we haven't talked about this, but guess who appoints the board of trustees?
I guess you're saying the governor.
The governor does. The governor reports.
Right.
The governor appoints them, and that has been, one of the parents in on YouTube said, they felt like it was. They felt like this was all politically motivated, and it was coming from the top. It was coming from the governor of Alabama wanting to be in good graces with what was happening in some of the Republican-led states. So I think this is going to be something that is ongoing. Any other thoughts about this? Guys, leave us in the comments any thoughts you have about this. Note that Auburn is not the only university that is doing this. Florida, Texas, we've covered these stories. We suspect that there will be more. There's also, if you didn't know, there is a accreditation arm that is coming that is supposed to be the opposite of what the current accreditation is for colleges. Have you heard about this, Dan?
I have not.
So basically, in Florida, they wanted the Republican-led states to have their own accreditation for colleges they have to go through. So Florida has done it. I feel like Texas is doing it. I would not be surprised if Alabama does it. So it's an alternative to the regular accreditation that colleges go to. So all of this is politically motivated. So stay on the lookout. Please watch. Please voice your opinions. And if you teach at Auburn University, I've had some people inbox me and they are not happy. Please let us know, because we'd love to hear your thoughts about this also.
I cringe when I hear that politics may be involved, because that in and of itself just kind of changes the landscape.
It does. It does.
So, yeah.
It does. And one of the things, I think for us who are educators, and for people, whether it's pre-K-12 or college, we really revere the ability to for kids to go to school, especially in college, and to learn different viewpoints. But everybody doesn't feel that way. Everybody doesn't think that's important. And I think that, to me, is something that that's the point of education. You go and you listen and you say, you know what? I think I want to learn more about that. But according to this new policy at Auburn, you could very easily, it wouldn't happen, because the president and this new council has syllabi overreach on everything. So
yeah, one of the points I've always made is that teachers should not be preachers. When I was doing my best teaching, there were a bunch of different ideas being bounced around the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
I would express my opinion for sure, but then that was just one opinion in the classroom. And so
yeah.
I think teachers who avoid being preachers, in my opinion, are the most effective instructors.
Absolutely. Because really what you want is that you want people to listen and be able to say, I think I agree with this. I think I don't.
Right. Exactly.
And feel comfortable in saying that, right? You don't want people to get into the classes and say, I'm afraid to voice my opinion, or I'm afraid to do this, or I'm afraid to do that. So I think you are right on the money with that.
Either accept or don't accept Plato.
There you go. But you know what? But the question is, when did Plato become controversial?
Good point. Good point. I haven't thought about Plato in a while, but now I'm thinking about Plato. So
I'm like, what did Plato have to do with it? So we do appreciate that. Yeah. Okay, so Now we're going on to our next topic, and this is something we talked about this a little bit off air, but this really is about taxpayers' money and the federal voucher program that is coming on January 1st. Now, before we start, did you know anything about this? Because I'm trying to see, am I the only person who is like, what in the world is happening?
I am aware of this because it affects high school level, and so yes, I'm aware of this enough to be able to talk about it with you for sure.
So, right now, as of last week, we had 29 states who signed on to a new federal private school tax credit. This is by the federal government, and this new tax credit was actually brought in by the big beautiful bill that was passed last year. It is single-handedly one of the biggest school choice developments in years, and it has real implications about student funding. Now, I'm going to read to you how this will go. Now, keep in mind, the federal government has not finalized the rules, but you need to know about it. The Education Federal Tax Credit would give taxpayers in participating covered states, remember I talked about 29 have signed on, a dollar for dollar federal tax credit up to $1,700 for donations to scholarship granting organizations, better known as SGOs. These SGOs would fund K 12 education expenses like private school tuition and tutoring for students from households earning up to 300,000 of their area's median income. This is the largest national expansion of school choice in history, and it is projected to generate $24 billion annually in education funding. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. Dan, what are you thinking about this?
Well, I want to make sure that everyone listening understands because I wasn't sure about this until I did some research that uh, this can be beneficial to public school families as well. This is not
Mm-hmm.
a private school or independent school only tax credit, and so that kind of levels the playing field, if you will, for
Mm-hmm.
me. You've raised a great point before we began the podcast, and that is, but where is this money going to come from? And
Yes.
and that's a great question. But I don't want. I hope that listeners will not be because it is in that big beautiful bill, which is a Republican policy, Republican president policy.
Mm-hmm.
The governor of Maryland, Wes Moore, is one of the governors who has not opted into it yet,
Yeah.
and I'm hoping that he will make his decision not based on politics, but rather on other factors.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's important for people to know because you are 100% correct in that anybody can take advantage of this money. This is not for parents. This is not for it is for everybody. And that has been one of the things because out of those 29 states, there are several Democratic led states who are agreeing to this. Now, beginning January 1st, 2027, individual taxpayers can donate $1,700, right? The scholarship granting organization, it has to be a 501(c) nonprofit. They manage and distribute the funds and they claim 100% federal income tax credit for the contribution. Okay. So, in effect, the federal government is going to reimburse the full value of the qualifying donations. The taxpayer, the credit will, like we said, it'll be open for any taxpayer, whether they have children in school, and it functions as a dollar for dollar reduction in what they owe the federal government. So I can say, I am going to owe the government, I want to donate this money, and I can take it off of what I would owe. Only students who live in a state that has opted in will be eligible for this scholarship. Okay. And people will say, well, how do I know if I make 300% of the area's median income? It'll be defined by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And there is a reference map another retiree, Doug Dravent, he is a program manager at the National Center for Education Statistics. He put it in there so that you could see. So if you live in California, San Jose, Sunnyvale, Santa Clara area, you would that would be roughly about $585,000 you would have to make, you would could not go over. Or if you were in South Dakota, the Pine Ridge Reservation, you could make about $113,000 in order before you would not qualify for it. Now, a big question that I brought up was, well, where is this money going to come from? And we know there has been talk of abolishing the Department of Education. So the question would be for me, where is this money going to come from? And who is going to where's the money going to come from, and how is it going to impact the Department of Education, which the Trump administration has said that they want to abolish anyway? Any thoughts about that?
Well, I think it's a great question, and I think we need to that needs to be revealed to us. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that will happen or not, but where in fact, what's the source of this money?
Yeah.
And I think that might it probably would change my opinion depending upon the answer, right?
Yeah.
So so that's a great question that needs to be answered.
Yeah, and I wonder if, would they take the Department of Education and take their funding, and that's what's going to pay this. That's a good way to get rid of the Department of Education, quit funding it, and go from there. So
Right.
people, if you're wondering why don't we know more about this, because the rules for this have not been published yet. So the Department of Education and the Trump administration is still working on this. So it's not that we just don't have the information for us to know about this yet.
Well,
Um,
it won't become active until 2027, right?
right, right.
Is that correct?
January 1st.
Yeah, yeah,
So
right.
there is time. There's definite time for people to listen to it and to learn about the rules. I also have questions about these SGOs. Who are going to be these SGOs? Will they be churches? Will they be a school? Can actually be an SGO if they have a 501(c) leg. So they can also be an SGO. So who's going to get these contracts? Because these SGOs are going to have millions of dollars running through them in certain states.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So this is important to know. Now I have to ask you, one of the things, and I was talking to someone else about this. Somebody told me that this really, despite it being called a tax credit or a voucher system, this really is more like a subsidy, right? Because in the 90s, classic voucher programs sent money directly to families, and they drew it out of state education budgets. This program doesn't do it. So this money, because it flows through the SGO rather than to the families, and it comes from federal monies rather than states, that is one of the ways that a lot of the Democratic governors have said, we think we can support this bill because it's not taking the money away from the state.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, I think it should be a federal policy. I mean, states are having the option of opting in or not, but it should be a countrywide, policy, in my opinion. If it's impacting both public and independent school families equally in an equal way,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think the opting in and opting out does start to pit states against states and governors against governors, and then now we're talking politics again. And so
Yeah.
I would rather it be, I think, a federal policy rather than a state policy that you're opting into.
Yeah.
Again, until I know more about it, that would be my opinion.
Yeah. And let me give you the states who have. So there are two Democratic states who have agreed to this: Kathy Hochul of New York and Jared Polis of Colorado. There are several states who said they would stay out, including New Mexico, Oregon, Hawaii, but they've indicated that they are reconsidering. There are 27 states that have notified the IRS of their intent to participate as of April 15th. Alabama, Alaska, Arkansas, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, New Hampshire, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. So 29.
And you said how many of those states were Democratic
two,
governor states.
two, Colorado and New York.
Yeah, right. Okay.
But there have also been governors, Democratic governors of New Mexico, Oregon, and Hawaii, who have indicated they are thinking about doing it.
And I haven't heard any indication one way or the other from Maryland's governor. Maybe you have, but I don't know if he's
I haven't.
considering it at this point or
Yeah.
what. But
I haven't heard anything about it. I think that if people will probably be forced to do it because people will want the money for the tutoring, for the help with, supplies. Again, I just want to know where the money is coming from because the money just didn't appear. So I could only get behind it somehow if this was going to be something that is not taking from the federal education budget. I don't trust that it won't. So right now, I'm really just sitting back and trying to figure out, okay, what is going to be next? What does this look like? How can we go from there?
and that's a great point,
Yeah,
Francesca. Absolutely great point.
absolutely.
We need to know more.
We need to know more. We absolutely need to know more. Now, we talked about Auburn University. We've talked about federal tax incentive program. Let's talk about reading. And this is
Something near and dear to me.
something near and dear to you. And this is really coming from Senator Cassidy, who is the Republican senator from Louisiana. He recently lost his bid to come back to the Senate. However, he is in his last 7 months, he has authored with two other senators, Maggie Hassan from New Hampshire, who's a Democrat, and a Republican senator from Indiana, Jim Banks, and a Democratic from Colorado, John Hickenlooper, where they have introduced the Reading Excellence and Achievement for Development Act last week. It is called the READ Act, and its aim is to make evidence-based reading instruction the national standard. This is a bipartisan measure, and this would modernize the federal government's largest literacy grant program for the first time in nearly a decade and make evidence-based instruction the standard for state grant recipients rather than the exception. Now, you've heard about the science of reading, right?
Oh, absolutely. I've always been interested in and fascinated by the science of reading, and I think it's important that we pay attention to that. I love the fact that this is a bipartisan bill,
Absolutely.
and I also love the fact that it seems to be coming from and supported by parents and not people. It's not coming from Washington. It doesn't seem
Yeah.
to me
Yeah.
so much, and I like that too.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And so they will require states that in order to receive funding to build literacy instructional plans, they have to be grounded in the science of reading, and they have to put early literacy screening in place for young children. The program that they would focus on is going to talk about phonemic awareness, fluency, language structure, vocabulary, background knowledge, and it directs states to make student data outcomes public. Um,
I know that my two granddaughters are benefiting from it already
yeah,
in their school here in Maryland,
yeah,
and they are such great readers at a much earlier age
yeah,
than I certainly was when I was a child. So
absolutely.
I do believe in this. This bill is important.
Absolutely. I think it's definitely important. I think that it would force states who have not done this to do this, right? But also this is personal for Cassidy, the Louisiana Republican. First off, he's the first physician to lead the help committee, but also he told ABC News that the issue is rooted because his daughter has dyslexia, which my daughter does also, a condition that affects, 1 in 5 children, and he believes early screening can help address this. So this is what he told.
I agree with that too. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
And I think he said there should be no stigma of being dyslexic. And he really talked about how his viewpoint from that really pushed for him to sponsor this bill, even though he lost his Republican primary in Louisiana 2 weeks ago and will leave the Senate next year. And he said, education changed my life. If we can get the READ Act done, I think this can be profound. Now, I like that money is tied to it and student outcomes are tied to it, not because I think that um, I think it'll make states really be intentional about the reading practices in front of their kids. What are your thoughts?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
I think it'll make for me, I think it will make states really think about the reading materials, the reading focus they have for their states. What about you? What do you think about
Yeah,
that?
yes. I hope that it will. That absolutely should be the outcome of this.
Yeah.
Yes.
And one of the things they also will do, it will require grant receiving states to evaluate their teacher preparation programs to ensure alignment to the science of reading. And it will require schools serving students in kindergarten through eighth to notify parents or guardians when a child is identified at a risk of reading difficulties or performing below level, both at the start of the year and after any through year literacy screenings. Of course, it promotes early identification. So this is going to be a very comprehensive act that is passed.
Yeah.
Um,
I think the earlier the identification, the better.
Absolutely.
Yes. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
You have people like the National Parents Union. You have former Secretary of Education Arnie Duncan. You have Margaret Spelling, who had led the Department of Education under George W. Bush. They all are just super excited about this. So I hope that this will pass before he gets out of office, because I think that with knowing, because NAEP scores just came out and we all saw the NAEP scores that they have dropped. I have opinions on that, but I think that this would really help us reach our students who have some of the most difficulty with reading.
And again, what I like about it is that it's coming from a good place. It's not
Yes.
not to be too critical of Washington, but it's not
Mhm.
coming out of Washington. It's coming from loving parents
Yep.
who see that this is really important for their own children.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm going to be monitoring this. I think it's going to move pretty fast, and I don't think that anybody. I don't see anybody saying I don't want to be a part of this. You would be crazy. I feel like that's career suicide if you as a elected official says I don't want to fund this, I don't want to pass this. So I'll be watching this. I'm sure we'll come back and talk about this, but this is an important bill for us to know.
I agree. I agree.
Now, I do have one question. So, have you ever worked, and this is our next segment, guys, but have you ever worked somewhere where everybody gets sick? You
Where
work somewhere
everybody gets sick.
everybody gets sick. You're like, maybe it's a stomach virus. Maybe it's, it's nothing big, but have you ever worked somewhere where like one person gets the stomach virus and everybody else has it?
Well, so I did teach at a boarding school for 26 years, and so that was a kind of a constant concern, especially in wintertime. And so, but I don't think that's what you're talking about. You're talking about teachers who suddenly are calling in, not because it's their birthday, but because they have a stomach virus.
Yes.
No, that has not happened to me in my 43 years of teaching.
Well, in Massachusetts, at U Bridge Public Schools, they have launched an environmental investigation at U Bridge High School. Why? Because several female teachers were diagnosed with breast cancer or precancerous conditions over the past few years. In a June 1st letter that the superintendent sent to families and staff, they said the cases may not be connected, but the district is examining possible environmental factors out of the abundance of caution. Now, I don't know if the breast cancer diagnosis or the precancerous diagnosis were all connected, but kudos to this school system for doing something about it, because sometimes things just linger and nobody knows anything.
Right, right. And it'd be interesting, not interesting. It would be sad and tragic if there is something going on in the structure of the school that's causing this. Again, I can remember years ago when we had the asbestos scare,
Yeah,
and we removed all the asbestos from all houses everywhere. And I hope this doesn't turn out to be something like that,
yeah.
where they have to tear down the school. But yeah, it's an intriguing issue that I'm going to follow
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And the Massachusetts Department of Health and the Ubridge Board of Health are all involved. There's no evidence of immediate danger in the building and no reason to limit access, but they visited the school on June 4th. They conducted a series of quality tests with classes and other activities, and to see, is it the facility? Could it be the water? Could it be the air quality? Or could it be the property site? I think this is, if I was a teacher in this school, I would be very concerned about coming to work.
I
Um,
would be concerned as a teacher. I think they did test the water already and have determined that it's okay. But I would also be concerned as a parent of a child in that school, and
Absolutely.
because who knows what may be affecting them as well.
Absolutely. And I would, as a because men can get breast cancer. And so, they're not asking the impacted teachers to share data or to talk about their diagnosis, but they really are trying to figure out, what do we do next? And the good thing about this is that the teachers union praised the administrators' work with local health officials and said, basically, thank you, because this is a town of 15,000 residents, and they want to quell kind of the uproar about it. And the teachers union actually said the district has kept the staff informed throughout the process and has supported the educators through their medical treatment. And the association fully supports the investigation by public health experts and is urging members to assist however possible in this work. So kudos to them, and really prayers for the teachers who are impacted by this, because I know this is a scary time for them.
It's got to be scary. And yes, I agree. Prayers to them, prayers to that entire community. And
Yeah.
again, I agree. Kudos to those who brought this to light, because it could have been something that they might have tried to sweep under the rug, but they didn't. And it will be complicated, but it's worth it. I mean, there's nothing more important than the health of the people in your community. So
This is true.
absolutely. So if they need to do distant learning for a while, that would be okay if they have to do that
Yeah.
for a bit
And
of
I
time.
think they're out for summer because the class just graduated. So I think they're out for summer, which is good. But like you said, anything and everything that could hopefully get, these teachers back healthy. So
Sure.
we just are going to pray for them. Now, last but certainly not least, guys, I know we have about 8 minutes left, but we got to get to this, because every day I feel like there is a new lawsuit with Washington. So on last week or the week before, it was a coalition of civil rights organizations and the nation's largest teacher unions have filed a suit against the Department of Education. We talked about them earlier, arguing that the agencies unlawfully canceled millions of dollars in grants used to train teachers who serve English learner students. Now, do you know anybody who has been impacted by these grants that have been canceled?
I don't know anybody personally, but I have taught in schools, and I know of schools right now that would be hugely impacted
Yeah.
if these grants are curtailed. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
you have the Southern Poverty Law Center, the Lawyers Committee for Rhode Island, the National Education Association, and it really focuses on the September 2025 decision to abruptly discontinue funding for the 28 National Professional Development Grants. According to the complaint, and we'll put the complaint link here, this was a multi-year grant paid for evidence-based programs run by colleges, universities, and other organizations, training both current and aspiring educators of English learner students. Now, in the lawsuit, there are individual plaintiffs, Laureen Avery and Tina Choke. The suit contends that the department disregarded its own performance-based regulations and previously established criteria for evaluating multi-year grants. So they said, screw what we've done before. And rather judging the program on results, the plaintiffs argue that the agency justified the terminations by selectively pointing to isolated references to diversity, equity, and inclusion languages and applications that had already been reviewed, accepted, and approved. In several instances, the complaint says applicants had included language specifically to satisfy federal law requiring grant recipients to spell out how they would ensure equitable access to funded activities. They're asking the court to declare the department's actions unlawful, vacate the 28 discontinuation notices, and order the agency to make new continuation decisions based on actual program performance rather than what they characterize as ideological screening. So,
I mean, I hope this issue is more about lack of funding than it is about priorities. That's very scary to think that uh, diversity is so important in our schools and in our country, and if this, to the extent that this lack of funding is impacting students' ability to learn the English language, that's sad to me. We're such a more diverse country now than we were when I began teaching 43 years ago. And I have taught in schools. I've actually taught English language learners in my career. And I really hope that we can find a way to get to the funding, and that it doesn't turn out to be a priority issue.
Yeah, I remember last year where people suddenly didn't have jobs. People who work with English language learners, who were doing research, who were doing, these after school programs, they all of a sudden did not have a job, and they pointed to the ending of these grants abruptly. And so think about it. In September, many of us have started the school year, or you're about to start, and then boom, all of a sudden you don't have a job and you've got to pivot very quickly, or school districts had to lay people off. So this to me is shameful, because if it's about the kids, we want them to be fluent in English. They cannot get there if they do not have support. It almost would be like if I went to France and I needed support learning French, I would need someone to help me. I can't do it on my own. I can learn tidbits, but I'm not going to be proficient in it. So this to me is going to be very important. If they win, that this will help bring some resources. Go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking that, yes, again, we're such a diverse country now, and that's only increasing. And I think diversity is a strength in a school and in our country. And not only do we need the resources to teach international students English language, but we also need to teach our U.S. students other languages. And I would say particularly Spanish, but in my experience, that would be, if you could only teach one language, that would be the one, in my opinion. Again, we need to find the funding for this, so that talented teachers can teach English language learners.
And it goes back to our earlier question: where is the money going? Yeah. These are millions upon millions of dollars of monies, right? So if you take this money from school systems, from kids, directly from kids, where is the money going? It would, and that was one of the questions we had about the tax credit. Is this where the monies are going to? The case is going to be heard in Rhode Island, and the Department of Education has not publicly responded, but we know they were gutted in early 2025. So we don't know what is going to happen. But for me as an educator, I want my tax dollars to go and support kids, because I want to, when I am retired, or even now when I go out, I want to make sure that we are being inclusive to students, and not, they're not getting the short end of the stick because they happen not to be proficient in the English language. So
I totally agree. Yes.
Yeah. And one of the things that's going to be interesting to see, because we've seen several higher level courts reverse decisions that President Trump and the Department Secretary of Education have done. I'm curious if this is what's going to happen next. I have a feeling it will, but I'm curious about that.
Well, if that needs to be reversed, then reverse it.
Absolutely. Now, Dan, we are ending up. We have actually a minute, but we'll take about 2 minutes. Now, we're ending our conversation, guys. Every week we talk about these topics. We talk about education every day on the Educators Room. We share different news stories about what's happening in education, because public education is for public good, and we think it's important for everybody to be knowledgeable and to be able to talk about these things. But I have to ask you, Dan, if you were the Secretary of Education, tomorrow you are in the job and you have the job for the next 4 years, what would your focus be to address the issues that you saw throughout your 43 years in education?
We don't pay educators enough.
Mm.
We value and pay very well uh, professional athletes, actors and actresses, and they have all worked hard for their money. I'm not taking anything away from them. But we don't value the way that we should value the very people who help those people become successful in their fields. No one can think of no successful person got to be successful without being able to thank several teachers along the way. And that's the point of my gratitude tour. We need to be patting our teachers on the back and thanking them for a job well done. And we need to do that financially as well. So yes, I think we need to pay our teachers better than we do. I think it's becoming harder and harder to hold on to really talented young teachers because they can make so much more money in other fields.
Yeah.
One of the young teachers I pay tribute to absolutely needs to remain in education, but
Mm.
he sees his buddies who are the same age making twice, three times the amount of money that he's making.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to look at that and say, well, maybe that is the direction I should go to. So yes, pay our teachers better, and
Yeah.
find opportunities to uh, thank them publicly and show gratitude to them publicly.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that is a right move. I think that would solve a lot of our issues, and I think that would be just amazing because you value people. People can't work if they can't eat.
Right. Exactly.
Woo. Okay, this has been amazing. We have to get you back on a Sunday to discuss education topics, guys. If you haven't already, we've been getting lots of love on YouTube and on Instagram. Please like and share this. This will go live on tomorrow, June 15th, where this will go to our podcast. You can listen wherever podcasts are made. But let us know in the comments. Do you agree with the decision at Auburn University? What do you think about the education tax credits? Are you happy about a school district taking responsibility for possible exposure to something that would give their teachers breast cancer? Let us know in the comments. Tell us what you think. Please let us know and join us next week, same time, same place, where we continue to discuss all things education. Dan, do you want to say anything before we leave?
Well, just thanks to the Educators Room for publishing my tributes once a week, and I would ask that your listeners check them out. You just type "gratitude tour" in the search box on the website and read them and comment. I'd like to hear from you.
Absolutely. And what we'll do, guys, is we'll send a link out to all of his gratitude tours tonight as we send this YouTube recording out. Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you, Francesca.
Thank you.